I turned down a job today. I turned down a good job, although it looked good on paper. 5 days overseas, flights, accommodation, a beautiful location, and a retreat full of people doing interesting things. If I posted about this on Instagram, people would probably comment like living the dream, except one tiny detail. It was unpaid. And when I said no, people were not particularly happy about it. So today we're going to talk about something photographers don't always like admitting. Sometimes the most professional thing you can do is turn down something even though it looks glamorous. Because the truth is, a lot of these opportunities or collaborations, as they're put, aren't anything like that at all. They are businesses trying to run marketing campaigns without paying the people who create the marketing for them. Essentially, getting people to work for free so they can make more money. And that's what we're unpacking today. So I want to talk about the situation. I'm going to be a little bit vague because I don't want everyone to go freaking hating on them. I was approached. No, that's a lie. There was a post put out on Facebook, um, and a couple of people tagged me in it, and I was like, "That's interesting. I'd like to know a bit more about it." And there was another one that went round, and again, I applied for that other one. Well, they're in similar areas. They're in the EU, around the Mediterranean, and they're kind of similar vibes, but one's more physical based and one was more creatively based. Okay. Um, but let's talk about the one that I turned down and the one that I'm still being talked with, then that one. So it's basically 5 days of coverage, capturing the experience lived by the attendees, documenting the activities, creating imagery they could use to promote future retreats and gatherings. And now on paper, that does sound quite reasonable. I mean, until you realize a little bit more. But here's a bit that people outside the industry don't realize. 5 days of photography isn't 5 days of work at all. It's rarely even close because photography is only half the job. The other half is everything that happens afterwards: the culling, the grading, the editing, the exporting, the file management, the delivery, client communication. So basically, that 5 day trip could quite quickly turn into something as long as an extra 7 days, 10, 14 days, depending on how you work. Okay. So before we even talk about travel days, preparation, packing equipment, backup logistics, what which means that being proposed what sorry, which means what is being proposed isn't a 5 day collaboration. It's roughly 2 weeks of work, unpaid, away from my business here that could earn me money, but you're asking me to go work for 2 weeks unpaid. Would you do that? Would you go work for 2 weeks unpaid? And you might go, "Well, it's for a holiday," but I'm not on a holiday. I have to do work. And as I've already told you, the photography side, I'm capturing the events that you're all enjoying. I'm not gonna enjoy them. I'm working. I'm not gonna be able to do downward dog or write a sonnet or whatever the retreat was about, okay? But I think that's the trap that photographers fall into. People frame things like this as a perk. You get to travel, you get a nice location, you get the experience. But I want to be very honest with you. If I'm working, I'm not on a holiday. When you're the photographer at something like this, you can't just sit by the pool sipping a cocktail. You're watching the light, anticipating the moments, carrying equipment, managing batteries, cards, backing up files, thinking constantly about storytelling and the shot list your client needs while everyone else is relaxing. And that's what and there was another expectation mentioned to me. They wanted a photographer to socialize with the guests, which does sound lovely, but exactly how am I going to do that? If I'm photographing the yoga class, I won't be doing the yoga class. If I'm documenting the creative writing workshop, I'm not participating in that workshop. If I'm covering the group dinner and getting the shots to you to show how well you all come together, I'm not sitting there enjoying it as a guest. Okay. Photographers often get placed in this weird, impossible position where they're expected to be both staff and guest, and that cannot be done at the same time as much as you want to be. I can't sit and enjoy my food if they're like, "Oh, can you just go photograph that Khandie that they're enjoying that moment? Please, please, please." So I ditch my food and run over there and I'll come back and my food's cold. How am I enjoying that? Okay. But the reality is you can be only one. You can't be everything. I know it sounds you're the only one. But it is true. And so many people tart this up as like some amazing opportunity. Is it? Because there's a business side that people aren't talking about. The photography isn't just for memories. These are for their business. These images will likely be used for marketing, websites, social media, promotional material, and future retreat workshop advertising. In other words, the photography is literally the core part of how they generate their paying customers. So my question here is, I think more photographers should ask this: if the images are so important that you need them to make money for your business, why is the person creating them expected to work for free? Because I want to flip this scenario. Imagine turning up at a hotel and saying, "I'll stay here for 5 nights, but I'm not paying because I'll take some photos." Now, there are influencers do that, but I don't have that sway, right? I don't. You would get laughed at. In fact, there's a great one. I think it's a hotel in Ireland that literally ruined an influencer's career because she tried to do that to them. Or imagine telling a chef, cook for us all week and I'll tag you on Instagram. It doesn't work. The photographers hear versions of this logic all the time, and lots of us fall for it. Why am I working for free to make you money for your business? And before you go, oh, but think of what you could use those images. How often can you reuse those images? How often, realistically, from one retreat, one workshop, how often can you reuse those? Can you cover your insurance to fly out there, your visas to fly out there? Because that's what was expected. What about your extra baggage because you can't put your stuff in hold? Yeah? What about just the fact that you're away from your business and it might look great that you're out there living your best life, but I literally get paid money to go on these retreats to photograph them. They acknowledge that I can't participate and it means I'm working. They know that. I still get the perks, still get a couple of hours off. In fact, one I'm going on is giving me a whole day off. They're like, oh, everyone's having a downtime, so why don't you just go and enjoy it? And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Might mean that I just stay where I am and work, right? But I'm also getting paid a very good value because they realize if they're charging 1,500 for attendees, they can pay me. Okay. I also want to say that this is something that beginner photographers or less experienced photographers fall into. This is not beginner level work. They're not asking a hobbyist for a few pictures. International work comes with serious responsibility. You need the experience to deliver professional results. You need equipment capable of handling the environment. You need backups. You need travel preparation. And depending on where you're going, you'll need visas, insurance, liability cover, equipment protection. And if something goes wrong, you are the only person responsible for fixing it. So when someone asks a professional photographer to travel abroad and provide full coverage, that's not a casual ask. That's not a, I'll just sling my camera in my little backpack and off I go. They're asking someone to bring their entire professional skill set to their business for free so they can make money from you. Okay. I don't care how much you put me up. I don't care if it's a five-star hotel. I'm not going to be able to enjoy it as much because I'm having to work. Okay. And I think there's a mind shift that needs to come in when we have these conversations. When photographers start out, opportunities like this feel flattering. Someone wants you to work, someone loves your style, someone invites you somewhere. And it's easy to think, I should be grateful. This is amazing. But the longer you're in the industry, the more you realize something. You're not just a creative, you have a business, and businesses have to make decisions based on sustainability. Because if I spend 2 weeks working for free, that's 2 weeks I can't take paying work. That's 2 weeks where my actual business income stops. That's 2 weeks where my bills still exist and mount up. At some point, you have to ask yourself a question. Is this the opportunity that I think it is to help my business, or will it drain me? Because I'll be honest, it's the latter, and I have very little experience in why it wouldn't be. How can you use that to get yourself much work? Oh, I've worked overseas. Okay, great. Just that one. Yeah, okay. Like I think this is incredibly unethical. I'm gonna say it, I think it's incredibly unethical for a business to do this. Fly you out. Oh, yeah, we're paying for your flights. Well, you need me to be there to take the photos. So how is that a flex? Oh, we're gonna give you accommodation. Well, you want me to stay for 5 days. How is that a flex? Do you want me to pay for it? Well, you want the photo, you can pay for me to be there. No. And I think people are really uncomfortable sometimes saying no because people get annoyed. And it's not because you're rude and it's not because you're being unreasonable. It's because they expected you to say yes. Afford this business opportunity. So when somebody chooses to do this, the person who says no suddenly looks difficult. And I'll be honest, I was difficult on that call. I mean, don't get me wrong, expected to do it, and it was almost like, "We just wanna get a feel for what you're like." Well, I'm a businesswoman foremost. Do you want someone who would rather spend more time socializing with your guests or actually get the work done? Because I could socialize, but if you want me to get this work done for free, I need to do it in the 5 days, or 4 days. I can't remember if it's 4 days, 5 days now, right? I need to get it done in that time. I don't wanna be taking it home editing because that's more time out of my business that you're not covering, okay? I don't think this is a photography problem. I think this is a human behavior problem. And people assume because people have things on their phone that somehow that we're all gagging to take photos of people's businesses. We're not. And I think, I'll be honest, the person who goes on this retreat and photographs, I think I will be slightly disappointed in them. Because everyone will know you did this for free, which means you don't value your work or how you live. And I don't think it's a fair exchange. I don't. These situations are not rare. Photographers are constantly offered things like free trips, portfolio opportunities, exposure, networking, but exposure only has value if it actually leads to paid work. And I have rarely seen anyone say it has. And if someone's business model relies on professional photography to attract customers, then the photography is not an optional luxury, it's part of the business infrastructure, which means it deserves to be treated as professional labor and therefore paid. And in fact, if you expect people to do it for free for you, how self centered are you? Because I'm not going to be able to participate in your creative workshop. I'm not going to be able to do your high coding with the freedom that your guests get. I am having to work because you need those images to get those people in because you've identified what you've got now isn't up to standard. So you need somebody else, which means you value my skills there. Okay. Now, I want to be something very clear. Collaboration isn't bad. Some creative collaborations are amazing. They can open doors and deliver and create brilliant work. But collaboration should benefit both sides. Okay. And if one side is gaining marketing assets, promotional content, and business growth, and the other side is providing 2 weeks of labor for free, it's not a collaboration. It's just unpaid work and exploitative at that. And saying no doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you somebody who understands the value of their time and what they're delivering. I want to hear your stories though, because I know I cannot be alone in this. Have you ever been offered something that sounded glamorous? Or have you looked at something and gone, whoa, that's a huge amount of unpaid work? Did you take it? Or did you regret it? Did you walk away? Send me a message, drop me a comment, because honestly, the more we talk about this stuff openly, the healthier the photography industry becomes. And maybe, just maybe, we'll stop pretending that exposure is some sort of valid form of payment. And to the photographer who decides to take this job, I hope you realize you've just devalued yourself. I know that makes me sound really crappy, but you have just said your work is not worth paying for. They would just need somebody who agreed to their terms. Have a great day.